Welcome to Your Biz, Your Rules with Dara Paddy, the podcast here to help you weave the perks and quirks of your personality into your business. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss another episode. Now let's get to it. Hi there and welcome back to Your Biz, Your Rules. I'm here today to interview another one of my fabulous mastermind buddies. This time it is the one and only Keri Williams, magical kinesiologist and coach for spiritual women, but she will give you a much better introduction to herself right now.
Oh, hi Dara, it's so nice to be here. Thank you for having me. So what would you like me to say about myself?
Just tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Sure, okay. So I've been practicing kinesiology for about 5 years now, and it's been a really, really interesting journey. It's kind of, I started the journey thinking that I'd be quite naturopathic and do a lot of nutrition and the things that I was doing before. And as I progressed through that, I became a lot more spiritually open and a lot more interested in kind of self-development and things like that. So I've kind of evolved over that time to become a little bit more spiritual in the way I work. And yeah, I tend to work a lot with women who are in business and are really burnt out, because that's something that I've been through myself recently as well. So that's really interesting to see how kinesiology can help, when women are feeling stuck, trying to manifest clients, manifest money, or their health is really suffering because they're so stressed setting up their business. And just helping with kinesiology, it's really, really fascinating work. Yeah.
So it goes without saying that you are firmly on the woo side of things then?
Yes, absolutely. But that's been an interesting journey, because I found it was hard to come out of myself and kind of talk about that a lot more online. I don't know, it's just you kind of worry sometimes about what people think about you, but I think I've come to a stage now where I just accept that this is who I am. There's plenty of people who are into this as well, and for everyone else, well, it's none of my business what they think of me, quite frankly. So yeah. So it's been really interesting.
Okay, so let's get stuck straight in, and I'm gonna ask the fundamental question, which maybe all of my listeners already know, but would help me. What exactly is kinesiology?
Yeah, I get asked this a lot. In fact, I enrolled in my course thinking I knew what kinesiology was, and then I learned it was something completely different. So I understand no one knows what it is. The easiest way to probably say it is that your body is made up of energy channels called meridians, and that's what they use in acupuncture. So you might have seen how they use needles in the body to balance all the different channels. And when all of those energy channels are flowing, it affects your health and your emotional well-being and your mindset. So if everything is flowing really well, you will feel healthy, happy, and balanced and in flow with everything in life. Say, for instance, if you're imbalanced in one meridian, so if it's the liver, the liver holds anger. So if you get into a stage where you're getting really angry about everything and you've got angry outbursts because something might not go right, it could be the liver meridian that's a little bit blocked. So working on the liver meridian can help to facilitate that anger kind of clearing, the angry response clearing. So we use different techniques in kinesiology just to kind of clear the energy channels. Sometimes we use tapping. Sometimes we rub certain points. Sometimes we use affirmations, because someone's mindset might be running a program where they're telling themselves they're no good. Why should they have any confidence? They're a terrible person. There's all sorts of stuff that our monkey mind tells us. It's absolutely horrible. So affirmations can really help the body or the mind to reprogram that as well, and kind of rewrite all of those stories. So depending on what the person needs, we can just find out through the muscle testing we do in kinesiology, and then maybe do a bit of tapping, maybe come up with some affirmations, or maybe give flower essence, which is another thing that might help to shift and balance the energy. So that's it in a nutshell. Don't know if that explains it very well.
It does.
Yeah.
So is this something that, 'cause the way you're describing it sounds like this is something that people could also do virtually?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off my practice doing everything face-to-face, and I have transitioned more and more into doing Skype-based work, because not everyone can come and see me in my location. When you're dealing with anything that's energetic and anything in the emotional realm, it's very, very easy to work online. So I have people that might come to me that, you know, it might not be something that's a hugely physical symptom, but it might just be that they're feeling tired, they're not sleeping well, they don't have the energy to run their business in a really kind of effective way. So that kind of stuff is easy to do online, because I can guide them through the tapping points. I can send them a remedy after the session, and I can send them the affirmations, and we can go through it together. So that's really easy to do. Yeah.
I like that, because that means that literally anybody can find the fix that they need.
Yeah. I mean, kinesiology is just so versatile. Before that, I was doing iridology, and you know, iridology is really interesting because you're looking into the eyes and seeing kind of what the person's born with and where there's kind of physical symptoms that might come in later life. But it is relatively kind of, there's only so much you can do with iridology, but I found kinesiology just has so many different applications. So you'll find kinesiologists out there that are super mainstream doing sports kinesiology and helping people with knee injuries. And then you'll also find people at the other end of the spectrum like me, where we're really helping people with their emotional well-being and helping them to manifest and kind of create a life that they love, basically. So yeah, it's very, very versatile.
Well, Iridology is a new one on me. I've never heard of that one.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's our eyes have different patterns. So if you've ever looked into someone's eyes that you can really clearly see into, you might see that someone might have dots or kind of lines in certain points. And just like reflexology, where you've got different points on the foot for different organs in the body, that we have the same correspondence in the eye. So when you look at the eye through a magnifying glass, you can see where there might be things going on in the body, which is really fascinating work. And it's very naturopathic. It's very kind of physical. But yeah, very interesting. Definitely.
Oh, it is interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually developed by German doctors, and it's a bit morbid, but they had some medical doctors who actually used to cut up cadavers after people had died, obviously, and they would be able to find where there was cancer or where there were certain things going on in the body and actually correlate that back to the signs in the eye that they had seen while that person was alive. So yeah, patients they were treating gave their consent to kind of be used for medical science afterwards, and yeah, that's how they kind of made it all the map and how they knew what correlated to where. Yeah. So.
I feel like there's like a fringe hospital drama in that.
Yeah, I bet there is. Absolutely. You can make a pretty good black comedy out of that, I reckon. Yeah.
Okay, so back to kinesiology.
Yeah.
So you've talked about some of the emotional things that you can help with, but what are some of the signs that someone might need to work with a kinesiologist? Because I don't think it's something that people instantly think, oh, I've got this, so I need a kinesiologist.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that it's just those telltale signs when someone says, I'm just feeling out of balance. And that's often what I actually have people say to me when they come in. I just feel out of balance. You know, I was, a couple of weeks ago, I was, lots of energy, going to the gym, I was working with clients, was all really good. And now I'm just feeling tired, not feeling too great. I'm trying to, I don't know, make X amount of money in my business this month, and it's just not happening. So all of those kinds of things is probably a sign that there's something that's a little bit out of balance, maybe somewhere within. And using kinesiology, we can test and we can find out whereabouts there might be a block, whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, energetic, and then see what we can find out about that block so that we can give the right technique to actually clear that block. So yeah, I'd say that's overall probably some of the signs that people would have, other than, also just completely physical stuff. As I said, there's, sports kinesiologists, naturopathic kinesiologists, esoteric woo kinesiologists, there's all sorts of different practitioners. So people with very physical symptoms can also see a kinesiologist for different things. Yeah.
I know last time you spoke, you were telling me about how it can help with visibility. So if you're like too much of a wuss to go live, for example, which I have been accused of on many occasions.
Yeah, me too.
So how can the work you do as a kinesiologist help with that sort of thing?
Well, the blocks around visibility can be really, really kind of different for each person, you know. So someone might have a story from their childhood where they've been bullied. You know, another person might have a story where you know, they were always told they were no good at public speaking, or who would want to listen to them. So it's any of those stories that we can carry into adult life that can actually affect some of those things around visibility. So when we can actually kind of test and kind of talk to people about what's going on, you know, sometimes we actually do certain techniques where we can test and find out what age there was something going on with a person, and you know, then they can have a think about what was happening at that time, and that's how we identify, was there an emotional trigger around that age that might be affecting what's going on now. And then again, as I say, we can use those techniques to kind of help to clear the energy around that and get everything flowing again and get them feeling a lot more confident. So I think that's how I would personally address visibility. I'd be wanting to know, you know, what's happened before, like why do you feel like you can't do this? Is there something around communication or what? So yeah, really coming at it from an emotional point of view. Yeah.
I think confidence is something that we all struggle with at some point, whether it's to do with the visibility stuff, whether it's to do with like just telling the people we know in real life about our businesses, anything. It can just sometimes take a lot to really put yourself out there and just sort of like stand strong and say, yes, this is what I do and this is what I'm going to do.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, confidence is just such a huge thing. I mean, they do say that running a business is the biggest personal development journey you'll ever do. And I just think that is so true. You know, all of your blocks, all of your triggers, anything that you're holding on to that, you know, it will show up somewhere in your business in one way or another. You know, whether it's your money management, your visibility, your confidence. Yeah.
And when we compare ourselves to others, because we all do that.
Yes, exactly. I know it's just rife everywhere, and I have a little mantra for myself, like stay in your own lane. You know, just don't worry about what anyone else is doing, which kind of helps. Yeah, but yeah, we've all got that, don't we? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think I go through peaks and flows. So sometimes I'll be feeling like a real strong, independent woman and really empowered, and like I don't need to look at what anyone else is doing. And then sometimes I'll just be like scrolling through Instagram, crying and eating a cheese sandwich that I'm just not as good at as anyone else.
I know, I hear you. I'm exactly the same. And actually I started doing something last year which really was very, very interesting. And I talk to a lot of my clients about this now, and that's all around our hormonal cycle and where we're at within our hormonal cycle. So I started kind of breaking, I mean, it was from a book, I can't remember the book off the top of my head now, but breaking down your cycle into 4 different phases and kind of harmonizing with that, and understanding that at certain points in your cycle, when you're running up to ovulation, you're going to be feeling more confident, more sexy, you know, more extroverted, you want to talk to people. And that's the time in your business when you can really be a lot more confident in your visibility, and you can probably do those lives actually live and be okay with that. And then at other times when you're kind of winding down from ovulation and coming into the bleed phase where you're about to bleed and we all feel a bit PMS-y. I don't know about you, but I've found it's in that 2-week phase that I find I'm comparing myself to others. I'm feeling fat. I'm not feeling good enough. I'm questioning my abilities. And just having those little points in my calendar that reminded me where I was at helped me to kind of see over time, actually, I'm probably reacting in a hormonal way to this, you know, so just forget about it for now and see how I feel in a couple of weeks. And that's really helped, actually. So it's quite interesting how that changes your mindset through the month, you know.
That's interesting. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Well, I know that if anybody else accuses me of being hormonal or doing something because I'm hormonal, then I lose my shit.
Totally bite their head off. Yeah, I get it.
I am not hormonal. This is just how I feel. My feelings are valid.
Exactly. Yep, that's a good sign that, tiny bit hormonal. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, so that's one good thing to know as well. Like sometimes, I mean, we are cyclical creatures. We are not linear like men. And I think that's something that I really see in business as well. And I've done this myself. And I think this is part of what led to my burnout was, you know, we push ourselves as women in a real male energy way, in a very linear way. Like, you know, we're purposeful. We've got this goal. We must get here. We must make this much. But actually, the reality is, as women, we are much more aligned with feminine energy. we're cyclical creatures. We go through changes throughout the month, and sometimes when we're really connected to our cycle, we get different insights from different times of the month, like kind of like downloads, insightful downloads from the universe or wherever it comes from, that make us see things in a different way. So we might actually decide to do something else. And I used to feel like I was just changeable and I couldn't make up my mind. And now I'm starting to embrace that a lot more and understand I'm just a cyclical creature, and that's okay. I can run my business in a very feminine way, and that's still okay for me to do and not burn myself out in the process, So, yeah.
And I think even if you are one of those people who, a little bit like me, who struggles with some of the woo stuff, I think if you're looking at it objectively, a lot of the business lessons that we have ingrained in our minds are these sort of stereotypical corporate ideas that have come out of the 80s and 90s that have been proven not to work, because people throw themselves off buildings and burn out and have midlife crises. They don't work, and they certainly don't lend themselves to building these freedom-based businesses that we're after, because that's why we all run our small businesses, because we want to design our lives the way we want them.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want to be running on someone else's schedule. And, and also we, as women, we want to work in the way we want to work as well. It's like a lot of the very, very corporate businesses are very, very male-based in terms of how they've been set up before. I know that's changing now, but it doesn't always work for women, and then I see women who are in the corporate world who really struggle at certain times of the month, and they're coming up to their period. They've got these massive meetings to do. They've got to travel for work, and they really, really struggle. They're basically premenstrual, and they're going against the grain of their natural instinct, which is really to just take more time for yourself, go inside, do all of the reflective stuff that you would do for your work, and maybe actually change your timing so that you can go and do all that outward facing stuff, when you're actually feeling a little bit better in your cycle, and it's the more extroverted energy. So yeah, it's all fascinating stuff, all of the male female energy stuff. I could talk about it for hours. Yeah, you might want to get me off my soapbox.
I think once you've had a taste of that freedom, though, that's it. You can't go back to the corporate way of life.
Yeah,
I know for me, when I've had, because I know we all have these dips every now and again where we think, I'm not going anywhere, I'm not achieving my goals, I should just sack it all in and go get another job. But then if I really think about it, I think, but here's the thing, at 11 o'clock every morning, I like to sit and read a chapter of my book. I can't do that if I get a corporate job. I like to take the time to actually cook myself something nice for lunch. Can't do that if I've got a corporate job.
Yeah, exactly.
On all of these little things that we weave into our days, whether it's like stepping out to walk your dog, or if it's to jump on a call with somebody who inspires you, and I don't know, like have a planning session, all of that stuff that you can just work into your schedule when you're in business, like that all goes out the window when you've got a corporate job, because you are not in control of anything.
Exactly. You are not in control of your time anymore. Yeah, exactly. And for me, I think the freedom comes into just being able to have that time to, go back and see your family. Like I'm all my family is back. Well, my immediate family is back in Australia and New Zealand. So I want big chunks of time every year to go back there. I don't really want to be booking annual leave and asking someone's permission to do that. It's my family, So for me, it's really important to be able to take that time out whenever I want to be able to do that kind of thing. So that's a big draw card for me, definitely. And also, like, who can I speak about all this woo stuff in the corporate world? I mean, that just doesn't happen at the moment. So
you'll
one day will, but not now.
You get so many eye rolls from every direction.
Completely, yeah. This becomes crazy witchy woman. Yeah. So no.
Yeah, but I mean, I remember when I was still at my corporate job, my grandma got in an accident. And like she was fine, but at the time I didn't the only message I got was your grandma's been in a car accident. So I was like, well, I need to go see her.
Yeah.
And like my boss was just like, no. It was a Friday. I had no work to do, but he just said no, so there was nothing I could do.
No, that's a real deciding factor in just getting the hell out of there and doing your own thing, isn't it? Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, when I was with my ex, actually, his mother passed away sadly, and he literally had to book all of his annual leave to go back and see his family and arrange the funeral, and he had to take more unpaid leave, and they forced him to come back after that. So he'd only take 1 week unpaid leave and all of his annual leave to do that. And I just thought, that is a massive trauma. Like, how can you actually dictate how someone runs their life around that? You know, it's just awful, isn't it?
And I often wonder, what are they thinking? Do they think that that person is then going to come back to work and be like engaged and on their game and like really devoting themselves to the company? Because if somebody treats me that way, I'll be like, well, screw this.
Yeah, I just hand in my notice. See you later.
I'm gonna sit here at my desk and do the bare minimum because I'm not putting myself out for you.
Exactly. This is the thing. Yeah. I know. That's obviously not thinking it through. Yeah. No, we're in a very lucky position. Definitely.
Yeah. I could like rant about corporate companies forever.
I know, I'm with you. Oh gosh.
Okay, so I'm gonna dial it back and let's get back on topic.
Yeah, we've got a little bit off course, haven't we?
Okay, so you mentioned a quote that struck a chord with me, which was that business is the biggest act of self-development.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's funny because one thing that I've noticed, particularly in our online business community, is that people are either focusing exclusively on like working on their business stuff or exclusively on working on their life stuff.
Oh, interesting.
And actual facts, the two, especially for people like us, they're so interlinked.
So intertwined. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I talk about this stuff on my blog. I'm pretty open about stuff that's happened in my life. So yeah, for me, that really came into sharp focus when I got burnt out, because the reason why I got burnt out is not because I had too many clients, not because I had clients that were draining my energy, although that was happening, but really it was a combination of everything that was going on. You know, I had people in my life who, you know, were addicts, and I was doing too much to try and help them. I was working in a homeless centre with people who were lovely, but actually it wasn't right for the type of work I was doing, and I couldn't help them in the way I hoped I could. And that's probably the key as well. I was trying to help too many people. And, you know, as I got more and more burnt out, I found I didn't have the energy. If I don't have enough energy to work, my income comes down. So my debt was going up, and I was getting myself into a really difficult financial situation, you know. And it was really at this point that I realized that my personal life was massively affecting business, and business was affecting my personal life. And actually it was all one and the same thing. And I just had to review every part of my life to try and sort that out. And it's probably fair to say that I'm probably about a year out of burnout now, and I reckon I'm kind of at 95% okay. Still a tiny bit to go. I'm still losing a little bit of the burnout weight, but I'm nearly there. And it took a hell of a lot to really review every part of my life. So that's really how it came into focus for me, was just almost complete collapse, really. Yeah, and it's happening everywhere. I don't know about you, but I see it happening with so many people. Yeah, lots and lots.
For me, like the whole burnout thing, it's like this like big dark looming tunnel that's always there in the distance, and sometimes you just feel yourself getting a bit closer and then you pull yourself back. Exactly. But it's still always there.
Exactly. So I used to go and see practitioners, and because I'm a practitioner myself, I knew the signs of adrenal fatigue. I could see that this was happening, and I used to call it adrenal fatigue. That's what I thought I had, and that's one aspect of what I had, I think. But I would go to these practitioners and say, I feel like I'm flirting with chronic fatigue. I'm nearly there, but I'm just holding myself back with all of my supplements and all of my yoga practice and all that kind of stuff. But it didn't take away from the fact that I was packing my days full of everything that I thought I had to do. And then I was just trying to prop myself up with supplements and the yoga and, you know, seeing all these different practitioners. And actually what I needed to do was a massive life review, change my priorities, and actually surround myself with really positive people and positive things. And that's really what healed me. It wasn't the practitioners, it wasn't the supplements. And actually what I needed to do was really do a massive life review, surround myself with positive people, surround myself with, you know, positive work. And that is really when everything changed, because then I didn't have the things in my life that were draining me. There were so many things that were draining me. And I also needed to prioritize myself, stop trying to rescue everyone, which is what I was trying to do. I was a chronic people pleaser. I'm still trying to get out of that habit. That's a hard one to break, but I'm pretty good at that now. But yeah, chronic people pleaser, chronic rescuer. So it was just awful, like for me, for my health. Yeah. But yeah, that was definitely it. That was the whole kind of, wow, my life is crippling my business. And my business, as it is right now, is not working for my health either. So it's affecting my life, and everything was wrong. And I had to change it all. So, yeah. So I kind of realized it is a big personal development journey. Huge. So much to learn. Yeah.
So would you be willing to share some of your tips or your strategies for getting away from that place of burnout?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I haven't got it now, but I am creating a quiz around how to identify what stage of burnout you're in, because I think the classic model is there's 12 stages of burnout. I might be able to simplify that a little bit with the type of people I work with. But anyway, so depending on exactly where you're at, you might be just at the stage where you've got a really full schedule. You might be feeling tired and wired and you can't quite get to sleep, and your to-do list is taking over your life in your head. So at that stage, that's a very, very early stage. Okay, so you can pull yourself back from this. So this is where your biggest challenge is to really properly prioritize yourself. And at this stage, you can often feel like Superwoman, and you still don't realize how much further you can crash and burn from here. So I think it's about carving out that time to do stuff you genuinely love and genuinely nourishes you. So spending time with people you love, identifying the toxic people in your life, anyone that makes you feel worse than when you were around them before. See how you can, ever so gently cut them out of your life, spend less time with them. Maybe they're family members. That's not always easy, but try and find a way to do that. I think you mentioned that you've changed your working hours as well, haven't you? So you've got more kind of structure around your time. Yeah. Well, a bit.
Actually, I've changed my working hours.
Yeah.
Whether I'm sticking to that religiously is another issue altogether.
That's a difficult one. Definitely. So yeah, for me, finding that schedule that works for you is really, really important at any stage of burnout. But sometimes people get to the latter stages of burnout where they can't get out of bed, and that's where they have to change. So if you can stick to that a little bit more, that will definitely help. I really love, I'm probably going to have to send you the book because I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. It's Eat the Frog Guy, the productivity one?
Brian Tracy.
Yes, thank you. Yes, so he talks about creative procrastination, and I really love that concept. So you do a brain dump of all of your to-do list, and you put an A next to all of your supposed frogs that you need to eat for first thing in the morning. And then everything else is a question of how much time you have, how high the priority is, and how much you can delegate or just cross off your list. Because at the end of the day, we can't do everything. So I really love that one as well. When I get into my kind of frantic, I've got a million things to do, I try and go back to his model, which is really, really nice. So that's for the people at the earlier stages. I think as you progress through burnout and your adrenals have less and less reserve, people tend to find that if they exercise, they feel worse than they did before. So that's when you know that you're really starting to get into the kind of, this is a warning sign now. If you don't pull back, you could have some serious consequences. So you might get muscle pain after exercise. You might feel tired after exercise. You might be either sleeping too much and not feeling refreshed, or not being able to sleep at all. So your sleep can be mucked up. And then again, it's just that whole thing of that obsessive kind of, I've got to do my to-do list. I've got to do this project that you're committed to. So at that stage, for me, I found simplifying my life so I didn't have to think really, really helped as well. So taking out the decision fatigue, you meal plan for the week, you order pretty much the same things from the supermarket every week. You might cook pretty much the same meals. You know what's there. It's in your fridge. You don't have to wander to the fridge and open it up and look around and, what am I going to eat today? Because you've already decided in advance. You might have a wardrobe where you've got capsule outfits. You grab that and you put it together because you know what you're going to wear. So when people get really, really fatigued, they spend a lot of time trying to make decisions. So as much stuff as you can simplify in advance, the better your chances of having that brain energy left to actually focus on the really, really important stuff. And again, prioritizing your self-care all throughout is really, really important as well. So yeah, for me, things like at least 3 times a week, I'll have an Epsom salt bath, and that just really refreshes me because it's so much magnesium. It's really good for the muscles. Deciding on the food I'm going to eat, doing as much yoga as I can, all that kind of stuff. I just prioritize. But yeah, I've only got to this stage though, because I did get to a point where I would spend days in bed and I couldn't get out of bed, and I knew that I wasn't at the worst stage of burnout, but I was probably kind of in between the kind of middle to end stage, and I really had to pull myself back. And it's only because I got there that I implemented these things now, whereas before I found it really difficult. I would just deprioritize myself all the time and just do other things. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that.
I think that's the thing. It's a lot easier to make all of this self-care stuff a priority when you've been given the push.
Yes, exactly. It really, really is. Yeah.
When you think you're sort of ticking along okay, and yeah, you might be a bit busy, but it's fine. You'll get over it. You'll power through.
Yeah.
That's when it's like, it's less easy to think, oh yeah, I'll add this whole other practice into my life that takes up even more time.
Yeah, exactly. I know. And this is the thing that, it can become really, really easy to just think, oh, that's just another thing on my to-do list to do. But actually, it's potentially the most important thing that you can do for yourself, because once you've lost that health and well-being and that vitality, everything in your life is affected. Your money's affected, your business is affected, your relationships are affected. Usually people who have burnout become really irritable and cranky and difficult to be around, so it's good for everything to keep yourself in a good space, but
I suppose it all links back to what we were saying before about being sort of ingrained with this corporate construct in our minds. Like we've sort of been trained to think that it's all about the doing and the ticking things off.
Yes.
And not necessarily about the being and putting yourself back in the position where you can do the doing better.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And I think that really comes back into the male versus the female energy, that it's a very male kind of yang energy where we're pushing ourselves and like, right, we have to do this. It's very productive. We must tick all of this stuff off. But actually, when you're working in the female energy and going into receptive mode and just being mode, you can feel like you have so much more time. It becomes so much more expansive, and there's so much more reserve to do things in a slightly different way, not that kind of pushing way. But yeah, I know what you mean. It does for a lot of us, I think, come from the corporate world. And I used to say I was the worst boss to myself that I've ever had in my life. I mean, I've had some pretty terrible bosses, but I was worst to myself, just pushing myself to work, 12, 14-hour days, because I had to get that blog post out that week. Really? Did I? It wasn't the end of the world. So yeah.
That was, I think, I recorded a podcast a little while ago about a couple of habits that can help you avoid that feeling of business burnout. Yeah. And one of the things that I was talking about is how you would never let your boss treat you the way that you treat yourself. Yes. In your business. Like you wouldn't let your boss tell you that you weren't allowed to ever have a holiday or ever take a break in the middle of the day. You'd be outraged. You'd be straight on the phone to HR. Yeah.
You'd be handing in your notice and walking out the door as soon as possible, Well, I would be. But yeah. So why do we do it to ourselves? Isn't it crazy? It's like we get into this kind of desperate kind of mode to make sure everything works the way we envisage it to work. It's almost like this perfectionist, idealistic kind of vision kicks in that we need to get to. But really, do we need to get there? I don't know. Yeah.
And I mean, it's been a while. It was probably a year and a half ago now, but I got to this point where I'd get up in the morning, come downstairs, like still in my pajamas, get straight on my desk, checking my emails, checking my social media, starting on my to-do list, eat breakfast and lunch at my desk without moving.
Yeah.
And just like power through all of the all of the things without ever like standing up and even walking around the room.
Yeah.
And it was just mad. And it's so easy to get sucked into a habit of craziness.
Completely. It's so easy. And actually, I think from what I've seen with burnout, I think it's those people who are kind of like those overachiever types. I don't know if you identify with this, but if you do something, you have to do it the best, right? For yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, you know, so I would be sitting there for a whole day, just basically working 12 hours through, just having to achieve the very best that I could for some bizarre reason. And I still find myself doing that sometimes. So it doesn't just go away. You know, it's not just some magic thing that happens and then suddenly you never have to do that again. I mean, it's just a constant kind of practice of reminding yourself. So I set up this little kind of office nook in my house where I've got a different desk and I'm looking over the garden to do my writing, and it's lovely. But for some bizarre reason, all of my old habits kicked in when I got to that desk. It's just really weird. So I have to re-educate myself. So I found myself the other day being online until about 9 o'clock at night, and I try and not have any screen time in the evening from about 7:38 if I can. And I just suddenly thought, what am I doing? Get away, put the computer away. You know, it's still working. It's just, it's crazy. So if you know and you're aware, I suppose you can remind yourself that this isn't the most healthy thing you can do.
Yeah, one thing that I tried to remind myself is, yes, I can work for that long. I can do the work, but I can't do brilliant work.
Yes, exactly.
So I'll be able to like tick the basic boxes, but I won't be able to do stuff that like genuinely delights my clients.
Yeah.
Because I just won't have the brain power, won't have the energy.
Exactly. This is the thing. Yeah. And kind of waiting for that time when you've had a bit more rest, you maybe feel a bit more inspired. Yeah. And then do it then. It works so much better. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, burnout, I think burnout's just a fascinating topic, not just because I've been through it myself, but just how it affects every single area in your life. And it affects people on all levels of their being, you know, health and, you know, energy and emotions. It's a fascinating topic. Yeah.
And for anyone who wants to learn more, you've got a lot of resources on this over on your new website, haven't you?
I do, yes. I am writing a little bit of a book in the background, and I've been doing a bit of blogging about this recently. So yeah, it's all over on my website.
Excellent. Tell us about the book.
Oh gosh. I don't want to say the title just in case it changes, but essentially what it's developing as at the moment is a holistic guide to burnout. So it takes the reader through a slightly different view of burnout. It's not just about adrenal fatigue and identifying that and which vitamin B you need and which herbs you need to boost your adrenals. It's a much more holistic look, and it's really the book that I was looking for, I think, when I was burnt out. So it takes the reader through having a look at what food you're eating. I don't buy into telling people about strict nutrition plans, by the way, so I'm not writing it like that, but just more from a intuitive point of view so people can learn for themselves what works and what doesn't. So yeah, food, exercise, talking about how exercise when you're burnt out can actually be a lot more damaging. So you've really got to kind of change what you're doing and come back from burnout slowly. So some of the things that you can do on a day-to-day basis, and then going a lot deeper to think about your relationships with significant others, with your family, with your friends, you know, how toxic people can drain your energy, how things in your life can drain your energy if your house is full of clutter. You know, if you have complete kind of chaos in your life and you need to make decisions about everything as you go through the day. What are you going to wear? What are you going to eat? Which shampoo should you use in the morning? All of that kind of stuff. If you haven't sorted all that out, I talk a lot about frameworks and deciding in advance. So you just go on kind of autopilot through the day. So it's really a very kind of holistic exploration of how burnout can affect your life and all the different areas that you can make tweaks in.
Sounds brilliant. I'll definitely be pre-ordering that bad boy.
Yeah, thank you. I've got to finish writing it, but yeah.
no pressure or anything, but
no, I know. So yeah, so I'm starting to publish some blog posts around, you know, some of the research I've been doing and things like that. So it's not the full book, but there's some bits and pieces that I'm sharing just to get some comments and see if anyone's resonating with some of these ideas as well that I'm coming up with. So yeah.
That's brilliant. And that's the advice that I always give people, is create the thing that you would have wanted.
Yes, absolutely. No, I went on a retreat actually last year. It's so interesting. I did, the coach took us through this exercise to do what she called a womanifesto instead of a manifesto. And so we got little quotes and things, you know, like the life one by Holsty, you know, this is your life. So we made our own up, and it was completely personalized. And I came across this quote, write the book that you wanted to read. I was like, that's interesting. I have been wanting to do more writing. So I put it on my little womanifesto, which has been near my bed for almost a year now. And I found myself writing a book. So it's amazing how these things happen. Yeah. So there you go. You're hoping to manifest some things in your life now. Put them right in front of you. Keep the vision there. It'll happen.
Yeah, don't tell anybody, but I actually have a vision board right in front of me right now behind my computer.
Oh, awesome. You're embracing the woo.
Well, so the mastermind that we're in, just for everyone listening, the host, Gemma, she does a monthly giveaway. So whoever sort of nailed their tasks each month gets a prize. And the prize she sent me was a vision board. So it's like a nice frame with a corkboard background that you can attach all of the things to. So
nice.
I thought, she sent it to me, I'm going to do it. So it's there, it's up.
Perfect. Oh, embracing the woo. Brilliant. Yeah.
Little by little.
Yes. Dipping your toes in the woo water for now. Yeah.
Yeah, I also have a diffuser on in the background. Oh my God, you're dragging
doing
me,
angel cards with you soon, in no time.
So obviously we've touched on the woo already, but tell us, what's your biggest guilty pleasure and how do you weave it into your work?
Oh gosh. I want to say, well, my biggest guilty pleasure that I don't weave into my work is my love of vampire TV, vampire shows. I know that's a massive guilty. Oh, like Vampire Diaries and yeah, amazing.
I love them.
I know. I was so devastated when it finished. Oh, yeah.
I haven't watched the last season.
Okay, so I won't tell you anything, but yeah.
Yeah, that I do that if I know that something's coming to an end, I resist watching like either the final few episodes or the final season for like a ridiculous long time.
You can't let go.
Yeah, I really can't.
Oh gosh. So are you a Stefan or a Damon girl?
Both.
Yeah.
At the same time. I'm joking. I think if I think back to when I first started watching the Vampire Diaries, I wanted Stefan to end up with Elena so that I could marry Damon.
Okay, right. So it didn't quite, yeah. I don't want to ruin it for anyone who might be listening or you, so I won't say, but yeah. Yeah, there's
some twists and turns along the way.
There is indeed.
But then I honestly kept changing my mind. I think season to season, I loved a different one more.
I know, it's so true. It's so true. They just kept changing. Yeah. So I haven't figured out how to weave vampires into kinesiology yet, but maybe I will someday. But yeah, I think the thing that I've been weaving in more, and it's probably my oracle cards. I'm a little bit obsessed, to be honest. Like I've got about 15 different sets now, and I love doing card reading. So I just started doing it with friends and for myself, and gradually, someone, actually a client said to me once, oh, why don't you do something with oracle cards? I can't even remember how we got onto the topic. I might have just been talking to her when the session finished, and I thought, yeah, why don't I? So I just started kind of weaving that in. And it's really interesting, actually, because sometimes you do the oracle cards and they just give you a little kind of idea about what's going on with the person on a deeper level. So you can ask questions around that topic and it brings out a different aspect, and you can see how that's actually linked to what's going on with them. So yeah, it's been really interesting actually to work with them. So yeah, that's one of my passions that I weave into it. Yeah.
Well, I should think so if you've got so many decks.
I know, I've got to do something with them, right? Yeah.
Okay, to wrap up, tell us all where we can find you online.
Okay, so my website is keridwilliams.com, and that's spelled Keri and then D Williams. And Facebook is the same, facebook.com/Keri D Williams.
Excellent. I'll pop links to those in the show notes for anyone who wants to come over and either dabble in kinesiology or learn all of the things about burnout.
Yeah. We'll talk about vampires. Yeah.
Or talk about vampires, which is perfectly valid.
Yes.
Perfectly valid. So, before we go, what are you watching now that the Vampire Diaries is over?
Oh, I haven't found a replacement really. I've been watching quite a lot of Suits. Quite like Suits. It's completely different. Yeah. No vampires. No. So I don't know. There might be some other show that has some of the fantasy stuff that I really like, but I haven't found it yet. So I'm waiting for Game of Thrones with bated breath. And
have you watched Bitten?
No.
That's pretty good. That's on Netflix. It's more werewolfy than vampire-y, but it's good.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, there's my next Netflix. I can't say it. Netflix binge. Oh gosh, bit of a tongue twister, that one.
Well, it was lovely to talk to you today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been really nice speaking to you.
Great. Well, I'll talk to you soon.
Hey, bye.
Thank you for listening to Your Biz, Your Rules. If you've enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you could leave me an honest review on iTunes. As a little thank you, the first 150 people to leave me feedback will get access to Conquer Your Content Plan, my exclusive workbook designed to help you dream up, draft, and leverage strategic standout content in next to no time. See you next week.